Strengths and weaknesses. Get rid of your laundry list and learn how to get your team focused on key issues. Our presenter today will be Dana Baldwin. Dana brings more than 30 years of business experience to his seminar participants. He has held senior management positions including chairman, CEO, and COO in mid-sized companies. He is familiar with all functional areas, having also served in sales, sales management, production, and engineering. Dana has a Master's of Management from Kellogg School of Business at Northwestern University. His critical thinking skills have been developed and honed with nearly 15 years' experience leading companies through simplified strategic planning. Dana Baldwin has managed 2 different machine tool companies, coming up through the ranks from a beginning engineer to becoming chairman, president, and CEO of one company. He then joined a startup company that had purchased a product line from his original company. He was instrumental in establishing the new firm as a leader in the marketplace. Dana actively leads strategic planning in dozens of companies in a wide variety of industries. In virtually every approach to strategic planning, there are a number of common analyses that everyone performs. Among these analyses are strengths and weaknesses. When the strategic planning team looks at your strengths and weaknesses, we must be sure everyone takes this analysis seriously. To properly set the stage for this analysis, the team should discuss why we are looking for strengths and weaknesses, what we are looking for, and what will be done with the results when the work is complete. We need to be sure the company is headed in the right direction, so a competent, thoughtful review and periodic updating of strengths and weaknesses should be a fundamental part of the strategic planning process. While Dana is presenting, if you do have questions, please type them in the question box. Dana will answer as many questions as possible at the end of the seminar. Dana, we look forward to your comments.
Thank you, Denise. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're glad you're with us today as we discuss 2 of the fundamental elements of strategic planning, strengths and weaknesses. Why do we analyze our strengths and weaknesses? We look at our strengths to determine how to better use them in our business. We look at our weaknesses in order to understand them better and to help us determine if we should do something about them. I'm going to give you a laundry list of possible areas within your company to examine for strengths and weaknesses, and at the end I'll tell you how to cut this list down to a manageable size, making your analysis better and much more focused. When the strategic planning team looks at your strengths and weaknesses, we must be sure that everyone takes the analysis seriously. To properly set the stage for this analysis, the team should discuss why we're looking for strengths and for weaknesses, what we're looking for, and what will be done with the results when the work is complete. We need to be sure the company is headed in the right direction, so a competent, thoughtful review and periodic updating of strengths and weaknesses should be a fundamental part of a good strategic planning process. First, what are strengths? Strengths are those things the company does well which help our people perform their jobs, deliver value to our customers, and or help give the company an advantage over our competitors. They are some of the foundation which we use to build and improve our business and to build and maintain competitive advantages in the marketplace. When we look at strengths, we want to determine what we are truly good at doing, so we may harvest the benefit of those things that we do well, and possibly so we may do them more often or more broadly. What are weaknesses? Weaknesses are both internal and external factors. Internal weaknesses are those things that we do that impede people from doing their jobs as well as they could. They are inconsistencies in our processes and procedures which slow them down, make them more difficult to complete, and add time and cost to our operations which might be avoidable. External weaknesses relate to our competitive position and our ability to meet the needs and preferences of our customers in our chosen markets. When we look at our weaknesses, The considerations are not merely the reverse of those we use to analyze our strengths. The reasoning behind this difference is that almost every strength has an offsetting weakness. And if we change the weakness, we run the risk of reducing the strength or even eliminating it completely. The real reason the team should determine our weaknesses is to get them out in the open, with everyone in basic agreement that we have listed actual weaknesses, so the team may decide what to do about each one, if anything. Why wouldn't the team want to address and correct each weakness? There are other considerations which must be taken into account. First, we must recognize that we can't be good at everything. For example, look at Walmart and Tiffany & Company. Walmart appeals to mostly middle and lower economic clientele. It is likely that some of the people who shop at Tiffany would not regularly venture into a Walmart, just as it is probable that most people who shop at Walmart would not ever shop at Tiffany. What are Walmart's strengths? Supply chain management and low prices on high-volume products. What are Tiffany's strengths? Upscale fine jewelry at high prices, individualized service, and appeal to the higher economic groups. What would happen to Tiffany if they tried to appeal to Walmart's customers? And what would happen to Walmart if they tried to appeal to Tiffany's customers? In both cases, each would likely lose focus as they changed their business models, resulting in loss of their major customer base. Instead, each company focuses on maximizing results in their core businesses, and they do not get distracted by moving into areas where they might have limited appeal and expertise. This example helps show that we need the selected characteristics, strengths, which help us build our business most effectively. Second, consider the relationship between strengths and weaknesses. Virtually all strengths have an offsetting weakness of some kind. By correcting the weakness, we run the risk of lessening the strength or even eliminating it as a strength altogether. Let me give you an example. I would guess most of you have heard of Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player. He is one of the most powerful bodies ever to play the game of basketball. He's a mountain of a man, 7 foot 2 inches tall, weighing roughly 330 pounds, with tremendous muscle mass. He has little finesse, which is not a criticism. His game is pure power. His weakness, however, is his relative lack of speed. For a big man, an inside player, his speed is excellent. But if he were to try to defend against a guard 25 feet from the basket, it would be very likely that the guard, with his superior speed and agility, would be able to dribble around Shaq and drive to the basket with relative ease. If Shaq decided to increase his quickness and speed in order to better defend against a much smaller, quicker guard, thus overcoming at least a part of his perceived weakness in this area, he would have to lose considerable weight. He might have to slim down to, let's say, 250 pounds. While he would likely be quicker afoot, what strengths that he currently has would he likely dissipate? At 250 pounds, he would be more easily pushed around by other NBA centers. In short, he would lose the strength that made him one of the premier players in the world if he were to correct this perceived weakness. He still might not be able to guard someone 25 feet from the basket, and he would no longer have the overwhelming power game which made him successful for so many years. The conclusion from this is that your team must be very careful to differentiate between weaknesses which must be addressed because they're truly hurting your business, and those which are natural offshoots of the strengths on which you're building your business. Third, your team must be very careful to be objective in its analyses. It is easy to get into a self-critical mode in which everything is a weakness, or, conversely, the team may lead itself into a rosy scenario in which its strengths are overstated and weaknesses understated. In every session, it is a positive idea to have an experienced process leader with no vested interest in the process beyond assuring that the right things are addressed, the conclusions are reached objectively, and every effort is made to assure the financial, physical, and human assets of the company are used to obtain the highest and best results for the company. We have found that some companies are too introspective, and in looking out at the real world think they're the only ones with problems and challenges. Others are just the opposite. They go blithely along thinking they're doing very well with little consideration of what is happening in the real world. Your leader's job is to assure that the team's approach is fair, balanced, and objective, so each analysis obtains the best real-world result. Now let's change our focus to what are the areas of the company that should be addressed. While this obviously varies within a company depending on what the company does and how it operates, generally a team should look at the overall company strengths and weaknesses, as well as strengths and weaknesses of key areas within the company. It is important to look at how each area interacts with the customer world, both inside and outside the company, as well as analyzing the entity as a whole. Recognize that it may well happen that some areas have different strengths or weaknesses from the company as a whole when examined individually, but the company performance may be totally different when viewed as an integrated unit. When you have laid the groundwork for your team to begin analyzing your strengths and weaknesses by setting out expectations and limitations as discussed above, your leader should throw the floor open for ideas. While there is no single list of appropriate tactics that is right for every company, a good list to consider should include, but certainly be not limited to, the following. At the whole company level, let's look at critical success factors which can lead to identifying areas which could have impacts on our long-term results. People. Skills. What skills are needed in order to perform the various tasks required in key positions? Once the skills have been listed, we may need to do an assessment of key positions to ascertain how we currently stack up versus our required skills. Knowledge. What is the extent of knowledge we possess as a company? Where does it reside? If it is all in the minds of a few key people, how can we document it so it will reside within the company and we won't lose it if someone retires or leaves the company? Impact on others, both inside and outside the company. What is the culture within the company? Are people helpful and cooperative, or do we have some pockets of resistance? How can we overcome these challenges and get everyone on the same page? Products and services, distinguishing features or lack thereof. How do we stack up against the competition? Are we a leader or in the top two, or are we a me-too competitor? Competitive advantages and disadvantages. Why do people or companies buy from us or not buy from us? Are there things we can do to improve our competitive position that customers will pay for? Services or features. Those are things we wrap around our product or service that add to the value of it in the customer's mind. At least that's what we expect. What do we do to distinguish ourselves from our competition? How should we improve or enhance our offerings to make us more competitive or even dominant? Examples of this might be post-sale service or pre-sale engineering. Quality. Where are we in the spectrum of the whole market? Are we a high-quality, high-price competitor? Are we a low-price competitor? There's nothing wrong with either position, but you must be clear about where you are and why you have chosen to be there. Speed of delivery. Is this a factor in being competitive in your industry? If so, where do you stand? Do you need to change to become a stronger player in your markets? Installation or service capabilities. In some markets, the ability to provide these services and do them well and on a timely basis is necessary in order to be a good competitor. What do your markets require, and how does your company stack up against your main competitors? Company factors. Reputation. What do your customers think of your company? Why is this important in your industry? What should you be looking to do to improve or enhance your reputation? Capacity. Do you know what your capacity is to produce your products and services? Is your capacity a potential impediment to being timely in your deliveries and responsiveness? Are there things you can do to overcome any limitations that are feasible and affordable? Do you have the necessary capabilities to produce what you need to produce? Are your productive facilities effective and efficient? Responsiveness. How responsive are you to your customer inquiries and requests? Is this a strength or a weakness? What may be needed to enhance this capability? Customer attitudes. Do your customers like doing business with your company? If so, why? If not, why not? And what should you do about it? Customer perceptions, attitudes towards customers. Do your customers perceive your company as appreciating them as customers, or do they perceive they are thought of as a nuisance and an interruption? Either of these perceptions will be the result of how your people respond when contacted by your customers. You should know how the phone is answered and how your customers believe your people think of them. Follow through. Part of responsiveness is how quickly and competently your company answers inquiries and addresses problems and opportunities. If your responses are slow or incomplete, you may run the risk of alienating customers and eventually losing them. On the other hand, if your responses are quick and accurate, and if problems are solved quickly without finger pointing, your customers will be much more likely to be supportive and understanding. For each of these areas which pertain to your customer, you should be asking, what are the things the customer values? What do we do for the customer that ends up benefiting us both? If many of our customer services and products result in a win-win situation for us both, how can we exploit this to our mutual advantage? How can we take advantage of this to gain or keep a competitive advantage over our competition? What resources do we have within or available to the company that will add something to our relationships with our customers? What features and benefits do we provide to customers that are important to them? How can we use this to distinguish ourselves versus our competition? How do outsiders see us, and what do they perceive as being our strengths? What do we provide them that makes them want to continue to do business with us? How can we build on this to sustain or improve our business? How can we improve? Are there changes we can make which will make a modest strength even stronger, or which will add to our competitive position? Will the customer value this and be willing to pay for it? Is there anything we do poorly? How does this impact the customer? If it does, what can we do about it to improve it? Individual areas within the company which might be considered for our analysis of strengths and weaknesses could include marketing. How do we build general and specific awareness of our company in the minds of our potential customers? What is the image we project? Sales. Sales basically consists of those direct activities which result in our customers ordering our products and services. Which of these activities do customers value and why? And what do they dislike about our selling activities? Production and service capabilities. These activities result in our providing products or services to our customers. What activities do our customers appreciate and value? How does this differentiate us from our competition? Accounting. While not usually included in strengths and weaknesses in most analyses, at least in the external side of those attributes, we suggest this area be included to the extent that it impacts any interaction with customers. Done poorly, this area can be a major irritant to customers, possibly resulting in the loss of business and alienation of customer personnel. Administration, your leadership. Does our leadership provide clear, unambiguous goals, communicated effectively to everyone in the company? Do our leaders allow people to function with an appropriate level of responsibility and authority, stepping in only to guide and assist, or do they micromanage, limiting initiative and resourcefulness? Human resources. Does HR support the mission of the company effectively, with good communication and even-handed administration of policies and benefits? How does HR contribute to the overall effectiveness of the company? Many of these are intangibles. The intangibles such as responsiveness, flexibility, reputation, follow-through on commitments, etc. Each of these depends on the type of company, the need for each of these characteristics in the marketplace and within the company. Each should be considered for its effectiveness both inside and outside the company. Once we have listed all the candidate's strengths and weaknesses, we need to analyze each one to see how critical each is to our effectiveness as a supplier to our customers. Strong process leadership is a key to effective, objective analysis of your strengths and weaknesses, as well as in deciding what to do to enhance your strengths and to attack those few critical weaknesses which the team has elected to address. I've just given you a long laundry list of possible areas to analyze for strengths and weaknesses. To cut this down is important, so you're not looking at such an extensive list. To do this, the team must rate the importance and the current performance of the company for each potential strength and each potential weakness. Objectivity and realistic analysis are the keys to effective work here. The result of these ratings will be to select those items which are critical to the success of the company and which may include both strengths and weaknesses. We use a simple numeric ranking for each item. First, we rank whether the item is critical, I should say, important, or merely beneficial when considering how it impacts our success as a company. Second, we rank how well we perform the candidate's strength or weakness at the current time. This uses a more balanced scale ranging from almost perfect to neutral to abysmal, with steps in between to allow for differences in performance. Almost perfect, excellent, good, some strength on balance, etc. When complete, this ranking will define both critical strengths, things that are critical to the success of the company that we do well, and critical weaknesses, things that are critical to the success of the company but that we do poorly. By limiting our approach to only those items which are critical strengths or critical weaknesses, we eliminate the long laundry list from consideration, and we focus on only those strengths or weaknesses which are critical to our success as a company. Then we can decide whether to take actions to expand or enhance our critical strengths and whether to do anything about the weaknesses which have arisen to the critical level. By paring down the list, we focus on what is truly important to our improvement and success, saving time, effort, and possibly even money. Establishing where the company stands in terms of strengths and weaknesses is an important component of the discovery phase of strategic planning, as it helps establish the base for analysis and development of plans for the future of the company. Done well, this analysis will help the strategic planning team develop effective plans for the future course and direction of the company. A good strategic plan will help you better define the skills needed in the future. We can't teach strategic planning in a one-hour session, but if you'd like to take your company to the next level, our seminar, Simplified Strategic Planning, will be well worth the time and money spent attending. So as a special bonus for those who attended this webinar, we'd like to extend to you a special offer to attend our seminar, Simplify Strategic Planning. Denise, will you please extend the offer?
Yes. For many of you, strengths and weaknesses is just part of your strategic analysis. And as Dana mentioned, it's important to hone it down to critical strengths and critical weaknesses so that you're paying attention to the things that are most important. For those of you who've attended this seminar and would like to tune up your strategic planning, we'd like to offer our seminar, Simplified Strategic Planning, regularly $18.95 to everyone who's attended this for $9.95. To register, this is a seminar link, and you will be receiving an email after the seminar with the link. In addition, if you're listening to this in an archived version and would like to take advantage of the special offer, please call Elizabeth Tidd, our seminar coordinator. Now Dana is answering questions, and I have a few questions that have appeared in the answer box. But if you do have questions about what Dana's covered or any other questions about strengths and weaknesses, please type your questions in now. Dana, the first question. They have a question about going from laundry lists to getting the team focused. Could you highlight what we do in order to do that again?
The process is pretty straightforward, Denise. What we do basically is we will ask the team to list candidate strengths and weaknesses, and we'll write those on a flip chart or put them on the project them on a screen through the computer. Each item will then be ranked in two areas. Number one is we look at the importance of each of the candidate attributes to see whether or not it is something that is critical or important or merely beneficial, as I said earlier, to the effectiveness and efficiency of the company. We then go back and the point I want to use to differentiate between what I just said, the importance, and the performance is, the importance is how it affects what we do. The performance is how well we are doing it. And it's important to know that something can be critical and we can be doing it well, or something can be critical and we can be doing it poorly. If we're doing it well and it's critical, that becomes a critical strength. If it is critical to our performance, our effectiveness as a company, but we're doing it poorly, that becomes a critical weakness. You then look at the strengths to see what you need to do or can do to enhance them, to build them up, to make them even more effective. You look at the critical weaknesses to see whether or not they are something that you really need to change, or if they aren't, then something you simply need to acknowledge is there and go around. The one problem with correcting critical weaknesses, other weaknesses that don't need to be changed, is that you are spending time of people and money to change something which at best might end up as a neutral. If you pick the wrong ones, you could end up by actually lessening a critical strength of some kind. And you also have, in effect, an opportunity cost that you've lost because you put it on something which simply comes up to a neutral and doesn't really change the effectiveness of the company, where you could be spending that same time, people, and money making something much better and making it a stronger competitive advantage or advantage over your competitors in the marketplace.
Thank you, Dana. Let me see here. Yes, one more question. What common errors do you see when you work with teams on strengths and weaknesses?
There are a couple, and they're worth noting. Thank you for bringing that up. Too often, people try to fix all the weaknesses, or many of them. And what you're doing is, by doing that, you are potentially wasting time and effort. Right with that, people tend to ignore their strengths, saying, well, that's already a strength, we don't need to work on it anymore. And that means that you're not enhancing those things that may help you become more effective, more efficient, more competitive. Strengths need to be enhanced and strengthened whenever possible. And the concentration on the weaknesses to the detriment of the strengths is something to be avoided at all costs if possible. And finally, one more. Sometimes people confuse a physical thing like a location with a strength. There are maybe a few times when a location is a strength, but most of the time it is a statement of fact. It can be a strategic asset, or it could even be a detriment. I have one client that is in a small town, and their location is a little bit of a detriment in hiring people with certain skills that are in limited supply, because they have the option of going to more attractive areas. On the other hand, a lot of people like small town living, and it can be a strength as well. So you've got to be careful in not confusing a strategic asset with a critical strength or critical weakness.
Excellent. Well, I think that does it for questions. I'd like to thank everyone for attending the seminar. You will receive an email which has a copy of this broadcast. You also will receive an article from Dana. And in addition to that, we'd like to offer you welcome you to come to our seminar. We have one in June in Santa Ana, and if you'd like to learn more about the simplified strategic planning process, this is a great cost-effective way